If you are someone that is looking to cut or knows that you need to cut, but you're scared of losing the tissue that you've got, then this video is going to help you out. This video is going to discuss the truth about losing muscle when cutting, most importantly, how to retain the tissue, and honestly, a mindset that will really fucking set you up every time you go into a cut. Because let's be honest, most motherfuckers watching this are not 8 to 10% body fat, and probably do need to cut down in their very first instance of training, or you finished a bulk and you need to cut down. You put blood, sweat and fucking tears into a bulk. You've got softer, you've been through the uncomfortable process of doing so, you've driven performance in the gym, got the extra rep, got the extra tissue, and you want to retain it all. Of course you do. So we're going to speak about that in this video here. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Tom Sergey. I run the Gorilla Platoon, where we get results like this, where most of the time all of these people are lighter in the after photos. We have managed to cut, retain and build tissue. So that's why I believe I've got a bit of credibility to speak about the topic that we're going to discuss. My promise to you is by the end of this video, you'll know how to keep muscle when you're on a cut. So let's dive straight in. There are 4 points I want to discuss. The first one is the illusion of feeling skinny when you're on a cut. And the reason I call this an illusion is because it is an illusion. You must understand, when you are on a cut, you are in a calorie deficit. When you're in a calorie deficit, most of the time your carbohydrate intake is not as high as it could be to fill up your glycogen stores. You've experienced this in the past. A big boy meal and a big boy fucking session, you look like a superhuman. You've got a big pump, fucking veins running through you, blood running through you. You feel like an absolute animal. You know what it feels like to have that muscle fucking tight. So you know that feeling. The opposite will happen when you're on a cut. You're in a deficit, you're in a reduction of carbs, which means your muscles will never have that full feeling of full glycogen stores. Now, if you do this for 8 weeks, you will run the point where you are flat. Of course you will. And that will give you the illusion that you are skinny, that you've lost muscle. It's not that you've lost muscle, it's just the muscle is not in the same size it was a few weeks ago because it's depleted of glycogen. Do you know how I know this? Because this is the way you get lean. You need to diet down and you need to push through this point. You will diet down to the point where you are flat. Now, do you know what you can do to really solve a lot of these problems? Is to run a high carb day. The high carb day will refill your glycogen stores back up. It will give you, again, the other illusion that your muscle is bigger than it is. Really, it's just filled back with glycogen and water. The muscle's predominantly made up of water anyway. But it will give it the illusion that it's bigger than it is, and that will square away your mental health and clarity. How do you run a high carb day? Honestly, a quick overview. Get your scale weight now. Go from anywhere from ×8 to ×12. That figure is the amount of gram of carbs you're going to do. I always proceed with caution, go with ×7, just to collect data, especially if it's the first time you're doing it. And when you set that target, you want to decrease from protein. Take about 1/3 of your protein target off. Obviously, they are both 4 calories per gram. And then you will allocate, the rest will go to carbs. Of course, you will be eating more food than your usual deficit target. What that will then do is it will allow you to train harder, your muscles to feel fuller, and because you've had the refeed, it will actually serve you in the sense of you'll be able to drop body fat a little bit easier. Little things like, I'm sat at the desk now, I can fidget because I'm in a surplus and I'm fucking full with calories, but when I'm really dieting, I'm not fidgeting. I don't want to go and pick up the remote from over there. My non-activity exercise thermogenesis is really low. Once you've had a refeed day, it then starts to come back up to a normal level, and just burning calories on a day-to-day basis is easier. So, first and foremost, it's the illusion that you feel skinny. You're not, you're just flat. Really, honestly, as soon as you understand that, everything will change. And likewise, you can be on a gaining phase and sometimes you'll feel fucking massive. And a couple of days later, you'll be like, I fucking kind of look a bit small again. And again, it's just that you're flatter. You probably didn't hydrate as well with the amount of carbs that you were having the day before. Maybe you missed a meal and some of your carbs were lower than they were the day before. These things happen. Don't chase how you look and feel in the mirror. Although, obviously, visually, from a lean perspective, you are going to assess that. But even then, you're not actually. You're going to look at photos that don't move rather than how you look on a day-to-day. This is why having a coach really helps, because it will manage your emotions through this. So running a high day, and the way I would do this, say you need to diet for 16 weeks, diet for 8, run a high day. That will last 10 days to 2 weeks and you'll be back to flat again. Run another high day and just drag yourself flat, fill yourself up, drag yourself flat, fill yourself up. The trend will still be going down in terms of scale weight until the job is done, and that will help with adherence and your mindset really along the way. How you actually keep muscle is determined by gym floor performance. You can eat all the protein you want. If you don't train hard enough to retain the tissue, it will not stay on your bones. Of course it won't. But that's also a very important point to understand. Log your workouts. How are my numbers progressing week on week? And they're still going up. Well, you're not losing muscle then, are you? Because the fresh air's not moving that load. It's your fucking tissue that is. So as long as the numbers are at least holding the line, or progressing, you're going to be retaining the tissue. You can fall back on that. You can look at your logbook and be like, I can't be getting skinnier because my numbers aren't dropping. If my numbers aren't dropping, I'm not losing muscle. It's fucking black and white. So you can cut the mindset out straight away that you're losing tissue. Now understand that on a cut, gym floor performance is fucking sacred. You want to obtain that for as long as humanly possible. In the last week or two, do the numbers come down? Do you struggle to get the 9th rep when you normally get 10? Yeah, that's going to happen. You'll lose a rep or two, of course you will. But that doesn't want to happen at week 8 of a 16-week result. It wants to happen at like week fucking 15, week 16, like just as you're coming towards the end. So do everything you can in order to hold gym floor performance, and do be smart with your lifts. Like, think about it. You're going to diet. You're 12 weeks into a diet. Is back squatting really going to be better for you than leg press? Bearing in mind, back squat, you're going to burn a shit ton of calories to stabilise yourself. Your back's going to fail before your quads anyway. Or is it better just to support everything that's not the working muscles, so we put the most load through the quads to retain the size? Take that principle, apply it to all exercises. So that's something to consider. Managing your mindset. So take what I've spoken about there in the first 2 points and understand that you will feel flat. Now you know how to address that. And you will feel like you're losing muscle. Again, look at your logbook and you'll know how to address that. But it's important we mention this so you can pre-understand it as it's coming towards you. Oh, I remember this motherfucker on the internet spoke about this. Now I'm experiencing it. He said to do this. As soon as you've got clarity with something, you will not feel like sacking it. And that's the worst thing. Motherfuckers will get to the point of feeling flat and skinny, won't have understood this information, and they'll sack it. And they'll still be 13, 14% body fat, not really that lean, and also feeling flat and skinny, so they'll go back into a bulk, and then they'll bulk, and they'll be like, I'm not fat, I'm not in the good space, and got all my muscle again, and then they'll diet down, and they'll just yo-yo between the two, because they just didn't manage their mindset and emotion to be like, I know this is uncomfortable, let's push past it. Just like when you're bulking, and you're like 8 months into a 10-month bulk, and you're like, oh god, I look soft as shit, I don't want to take my top off, I'm fucking gonna go date this girl, it's probably the second date, I'm probably gonna wallop her, but like, she's gonna think I'm a loser because I'm soft, but I'm not normally like this, it's just, I'm bulking, it's month 8 of 10, and you've got to manage your emotions through that and push through, because those extra 2 months in the last steps of the bulk, that's what's gonna get that extra bit of muscle that you were not get if you had to cut it short. The same goes for a dieting process. You're gonna be uncomfortable, it's gonna be miserable, you've just got to push through this, and that's why I give you the tools from the mindset. And again, it's all in the numbers. So how are your numbers progressing in the gym? I've already touched on this point, so I won't harp on about it too much. Look at your logbook, look at the data. Are we still in a good space? Yes. Don't fucking worry about it then. That's the truth when it comes to losing muscle on a cut. If you don't obtain the numbers in the gym, you will lose fucking gains. Of course you will. So you need to keep those numbers sacred. So keep carbs as high as you can. Pull from fats. Also, increase output before you take from food. If time permits, increase steps. If it doesn't permit so much, you're going to have to go through cardio. If you haven't got the two, it's going to have to come from food, otherwise you're just not going to get it off. And if you're not dieting for that long, you're not going to lose that much tissue, so I would not worry about it. But that is everything I would say about when it comes to losing muscle on a cut and how to get yourself around it. You've got the mindset, you've got the tools to lean back on, so don't fucking cut your cut early, finish the job, get to 8 to 10%, you will thank yourself for it after when you start to feed yourself again, and on those high days when you're 8 to 10% body fat, you look like a fucking superhuman, because that is your potential. So if you found this video useful, subscribe. If you want to work with me, there'll be a link in the description, book a call, and we will roll from there. See you tomorrow.